Welcome to AP Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Al Pilong, CEO of AP Leadership Partners, an executive coaching practice centered around a passion for effective leadership. There are two things I know for sure about leadership. First, leadership is hard. And second, leadership matters. And so my hope today is that through the course of this conversation, you will find fresh ideas and inspiration for your challenging but important leadership journey ahead. Thanks for listening. The AP Leadership Podcast is sponsored by CXO Coaching, an executive coaching firm focused on empowering leaders and driving results. And now, let's get started. Today's episode is a special one for me. My guest is Dr. Tonya Smith, Chief Operating Officer of Valley Health, and someone I've had the privilege of working with across multiple seasons of leadership. Tonya and I first worked together years ago at Winchester Medical Center, and later I helped recruit her to Munson Healthcare, and over the years, I've watched her to continue to rise because of the kind of leader she is: steady, humble, capable, and deeply respected. In this episode, we talk about what really matters in leadership, the qualities that build trust, the lessons that come through difficult experiences, the role of courage and vulnerability, and the kind of leader worth becoming. Tonya, it's really good to have you here today. Before we dive in, for those listeners who may not know you, give us a quick version of who you are and the season of life that you find yourself in right now.
What a great way to say, as you get older, Tonya. Thank you, Al. Thanks
Yeah,
for having me. I'm so happy to be invited.
pleasure.
You didn't give yourself justice in that intro because what you left out was you were the first person to give me an executive position. And so certainly have had really big impact on me and my career and the opportunities I've had. So it's really great to be here with you.
Well, thank you for that.
Okay, so who am I? I am a mom of 4 children who are all adults now. I'm married to my high school sweetheart. And we are enjoying empty nesting. We thought, as my children leave home, I'm going to cry all the time and be really sad. And maybe I did when the first kid left. But now we are really enjoying empty nesting. So I'm a pharmacist by training. I'm a clinician first in all that I do, my leadership, and I think that's a big part of who I am. And everything else, I'm a mom and a wife, and just someone who's very blessed.
Well, you've been a real joy to work with over the years, and I'm excited to get into this conversation about leadership because I know you have good insights and have lived it. So let's start with the qualities of leadership. What do you see as the most important qualities for a leader?
What I think it means to be a really good person, which I think also translates to being a good leader. I was brought up, and I have brought my children up with 3 tenets: be kind, work hard, and help others. And if you do those 3 things, life is really good. So when I'm a leader, I think about being kind and the work that I do and the impression I make and the relationships I build. And my foundation is kindness. Work hard, so show up, be present for your team, be willing to do the work that you ask them to do. So work hard. And I think all leaders are servants to the people we work alongside, and we're here to serve others, whether it's the teams that we're supporting every day, the communities that we serve, our patients, all of that. I do the things that I think are most important in life as part of my work too every day. So I think those, for me, if you can do those things well and you get that right and at the core of who you are, I think that translates perfectly into who you are as a leader.
I love that you integrate what's important to you as a person with what's important to you as a leader, because so many times as leaders, we find ourselves sort of bifurcated. Well, this is my work life and this is my home life, and don't let the two cross. And work is stressful and highly demanding. And we think we have to be somebody different at work than we really are at home or want to be at our core. I love the integration that brings to your leadership and to you as a person.
Thank you, Al.
So let's talk about your favorite quote. What is a favorite leadership quote that you have, and why?
I always think about Maya Angelou when she said, "People will forget what you did, they'll forget what you said, they won't forget how you made them feel." I think every lesson I learned along the way as a leader has been more about how other people made me feel, whether good or bad. And what I learned from those experiences. And I really think when I think back on all the people that I've worked with that I've respected and admired, and people ask me what it was about them, it wasn't what they did. It wasn't some great project they got done, or it was really how I got to experience them as a person on the team and how they made me feel. And so I really take that to heart. And so I think about that a lot and how I lead.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, leadership is really about relationships. And what we do is with and through and around people. Yeah, in leadership, we're always sort of driven to get results, to hit the marks, to get the budget, to get the outcomes, the KPIs, if you will. But we learned together years ago about KBIs, key behavioral indicators, right? So how we get results matters. And so the way that we behave, the way that we act with others is critically important. People won't remember what you did. They're going to remember how you made them feel. It's a way to lead and a way to live. Love it. Love it. Thanks. Let's talk about bravery and confidence and how they play into good leadership.
I think some of what I've learned about bravery and confidence has come from being a parent and being a mom and the lessons you learn along the way. I looked up bravery, and it is having or showing that you have this mental or moral strength. So it's not always that you have it. Sometimes it's just that you show it, right? I have experienced as a parent where my kids are freaking out about something, and I learned very quickly as a young mom, as my child cried more and escalated more, if I got embarrassed about my child crying or I got upset about it, she just cried more. And I had to realize that, like, she doesn't need me to escalate with her. She is looking to me for assurance. So when I think about bravery and confidence for leaders, yes, we do really hard stuff. That's our job. And we do have to make bold, brave decisions. But when I think about it in terms of how you lead people with bravery and confidence, I think people get worried, they get unsettled, they feel they're concerned about things when change happens. And one of the biggest things we do as leaders is we provide reassurance. We
Yeah.
are the calming force in those moments that says to everyone, yeah, it's going to be hard because you can't deny it's going to be hard. What we're doing is hard, right? This is going to be a hard decision. But at the end of the day, it's going to be okay. We're going to get through it. We're going to get through it together, and it's going to be okay. And so when I think about bravery and confidence as a leader, I think about having or showing that kind of sort of mental strength for your team, even when deep down you may be uncertain and worried. But that's not what they need from us. They need to know that everything's going to be okay and that we're going to get through it together so they can do their work, their important work, and we can keep doing ours. That's how I see it.
I think early in my career, I remember the phrase "fake it till you make it." So even if you're not feeling so confident or so brave, sometimes you just have to lean into it, and the bravery and the confidence follows, and it really does. And all right, so as a leader, how do you navigate the appropriate level of transparency and vulnerability with your team when you're struggling with something that's hard, a difficult decision, a personal issue, whatever the case may be? How does that show up for you?
One of the things I have valued in leaders in my career is deference to expertise, which is one of those high reliability traits. People bring so much to the table and so much expertise. And so I don't make decisions on my own. I have a team of really smart people that help me make good decisions. And so I think the way I show some of that is I bring them in to the conversation. We talk about things, and then my team knows when I'm struggling with a decision or they know my perspective. It's not a secret. It's just how we communicate, how we share information. And they do the same with me. I'm a safe place for people to come and say, I don't know the answers, Tanya. Can we talk through it? And so I lean on my team in the same way they probably lean on me in the same way to show that. One of the things I've really tried to do is make sure people know who I am when it's not those moments. Like they just know who Tanya is. And I do that with frontline team members. I do it with people that are part of my team. But one thing I learned from you was the importance of having a relationship with a frontline team and creating opportunities for them to have time with you. And so I hold a session 4 times a month. It's called Talks with Tanya. And I have about 50 employees a month that come through these sessions, and we have lunch together. and we talk. I share with them a few updates about things that are going on, and then I have an open forum for the last half an hour that we spend together. So in the course of a calendar year, I'll get about 600 team members will come
Well,
through the session.
yeah,
What I find valuable about it is, yeah, I get to give them updates, but we get to sit around a table and talk to each other, and we get to hear each other's stories about what was on sale at Walmart last week that we took advantage of. Or sometimes we talk about the most random things like, do you like chocolate or strawberry milk? And then we have a whole conversation about it. I just want people to see who I am as a person so that when I do have to do hard things, they lead with good intentions.
yeah.
I know Anya. I've spent time with her. This is what I know matters to her. And I also, in those sessions, because we do an open forum, I tell them there's no rules. You can ask me anything. We'll talk about anything. Any ideas you have on how to make things better, things you want to celebrate, that you want me to know about your team. And so I think if I'm always providing those opportunities for transparent conversation, there aren't secrets. If I can tell you, I'll tell you. If I can't tell you, I'll tell you. And so I think that's important. And I think that's a way to show not just vulnerability or when things are tough, but to show yourself even when it's not.
Yeah.
When it is, people they give you a little more grace. They see you differently, and maybe they respond differently to some of the things we have to do sometimes as leaders.
The other real value that comes out of it is when you're making decisions, around this table, you're making them having been informed by perspectives from the front line. So you're not just sitting in isolation, you're connected. And I'm sure that makes a difference for you in decision making.
Oh, it does.
You mentioned something that I wanted to go back to. You said your team can come to you and it's a safe space, and that you feel there's a safe space with your team. How did you create that? How do you foster that? What does that look like?
It's that building trust. I know that when my team comes to me, I try to be fully present. That's an important part of who I am as a leader. I've shown up when things have not gone well for my team. Like they've made a decision that was really challenging or something didn't play out the way that they expected it to. And instead of being upset, or the question will be, okay, what do we learn from it? What are we not going to do next time? How are we going to make sure this doesn't happen again? How can I support you? How do you need me to show up for you? Just having those moments with each other, it builds a lot of trust over time. And when I have had the same experience and I know my team has my back when I'm not in the room, which, is another really important lesson we've all learned is you are your boss when your boss isn't in the room. I
Yeah,
learned that
yeah,
from you, Al, when I wasn't good in the room and you were my boss and you said, next time, remember, you are me when I am not there, Tanya. So I've remembered that and I share that with my team. And so the way they show up for me when I'm not in the room,
yeah,
that builds trust for me with
yeah.
them.
So how do you balance, holding people accountable with creating a safe space?
Yeah, I think a lot of accountability comes from back to parenting. You don't want mom to be disappointed. My mom could ground me for a year and I'd be okay with that. As long as she didn't say the words, I'm disappointed. That is the kind of relationships that I've built with my team. I think I set a standard. They see how I perform my work. They see what I expect of myself. They know I expect as much from them as I do myself, and they want to live up to that. And I think that is a way to create accountability with your team because they don't want to fail. Sometimes just setting that expectation and that relationship with your team can be enough.
We've all experienced lots of different leaders over the course of our career, some good, some not so good. Maybe share a poor leadership experience for you and what it taught you about how you wanted to lead, the kind of leader you wanted to be as a result.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a story about someone that I worked for that wasn't you out on our court.
Good to have that disclaimer right out there.
For all your listeners. I did have a boss that I worked for a few years, and I think about this frequently about when I worked for him. One of the things I was a frontline leader at the time. I was not an executive, and I had a monthly meeting, a monthly one-on-one with this leader. And for me, it was my one time in a month that I could go to my leader, get an hour of his time, and share with him all the things my team was working on, all the things we'd gotten done, all the issues that I was having where I needed guidance. Like that was my moment once a month. And I would work for hours to make my packet, like my packet with all the materials, and I'd get it all ready. And I would go to his office and I would sit outside his door for 45 minutes. And then he would come out and he'd say, Tanya, you have 10 minutes. And so we'd go in his office, and I'd be lucky if I got 10 minutes, and I would share whatever I could, and I'd leave the packet with hopes that he would look at it. And I'd love to say that was a unique experience, but it happened probably 8 out of 12 times. That would be my experience with him. And I remember feeling unimportant and not valued. And I know in his day, I was one meeting in a series of meetings. Oh, when you reflect on what your own day looks like, you know what that's like. You know, it's meeting after meeting. And I know for him, that's what I was. But for me, it was a big deal. It was 1 hour with my boss. It was a moment with him. And so that experience taught me to never do that to someone else. Never make someone feel that way. Never, if you have a one-on-one with someone, if they have said yes to giving you their time, then you show up and you give them yours. You're not on your phone. You're fully present. You're giving them your time because they deserve it and they are important. I learned that how I felt in those moments were things I never wanted to do to another leader. So I'm going to make the list of all the things I'm never going to do. And then for the people that made me feel valued and respected and important and like a active contributor to the work, I remember how they did all that. And I make that list. And I'm going to make sure that I don't forget to do that for other people. But that's a concrete example of a leadership experience I had as a frontline team member that has stayed with me my entire career. And it's 20 years ago now.
Wow. Well, yeah, the experiences we have with leaders, they have lasting impact. And
Yes.
particularly, unfortunately, some of the negative ones especially stay with us. But what I loved about what you said was what you learned was to be present, to put your phone down, to be engaged with the person that's meeting with you. And to me, that's what builds loyalty and followership because people know, back to how you make me feel, they know you care about them. That goes a long way to building followership and loyalty. All right, let's wrap up with one final thought that you might have that you want to leave with the audience.
Yeah. I would say to all the leaders that are listening to your podcast, I would say give yourself grace. And we give the people that work with us and for us, we give them grace because we know they need that from us. And we don't always give it to ourselves. And I think it's really important to give yourself grace, to know that you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to get it right every single time. And I don't get it right every single time. And one of the things I've done that I would encourage every leader to do is and I did this 25 years ago, I started myself a gratitude box, which is a box I keep in my office. And every time I get a nice email from someone, I print it. Every time I get a thank you note, I save it. And I have saved them all my entire career. I have the boxes of them from every job I've ever had. And I put it in my gratitude box. And when I have a really bad day, or I think that I've done something, maybe not as well as I wanted to, or I've been at work 12 hours and I can't remember what I actually got done for that day, I open up my box and I randomly pick out a note, and it reminds me that I don't always stink at my job, that I don't always do stupid stuff, that I really have the opportunity to make a difference for other people, and they care enough to write it down for me in some way. And so for me, it just re-energizes me. It reminds me to show back up the next day, to keep trying every day to do your best. And so I would encourage any leader that does not have a gratitude box already to start one. I always give them to everyone that works for me. I give them a gratitude box, and I start it with a note from me to let them know that they need that, because there will be days when we all need something like that. So give yourself some grace. Forgive yourself when you don't get it just right. Gratitude box.
For many of us in healthcare, many of us in leadership in general, we have high standards and we're hard on ourselves. And so I love that sentiment because that is just a healthy mindset to have. So love that final thought. So thanks, Tonya. It's been great to have you on. Love catching up with you and appreciate your wisdom, and just keep going. You're doing an amazing job in leadership. Love it.
Thanks so much.
Alrighty. Thanks for listening. Leadership is rarely simple and it's rarely easy. And that's exactly why it matters. My hope is that something from today's conversation gave you a moment to pause, reflect, or see your leadership in a new way. Until next time, lead well.